This video is everything you need to know about P0420 check engine light code in a Subaru between 2008 and 2010 or thereabouts. Use at your own risk, use your brain, do your own research. First, let's review what a P0420 code is. It is a catalyst below efficiency. That honeycomb structure you see inside a catalytic converter, it's respective to how well that honeycomb works. Above all, it's air-fuel related. If your car is burning too rich, if it's burning too lean, it'll show up in one form or another, an engine code of sorts. P0420 is certainly the most common. After 10 years and 200,000 kilometers here in Kazakhstan, rubber deteriorates. Extreme cold, warm summers take their toll. Use quality synthetic oil, change it at 5,000 kilometer intervals, and don't be afraid to crawl under a car or pop the hood. Cars are not scary or mysterious creatures. Humans made them, we fix them, we destroy them. Use your brain and not let yourself be taken advantage of. Knowledge is power, and that's what we're going to be reviewing today. Certainly what marks this as Subaru-centric is checking the spark plug wells for oil. There is a rubber O-ring in the valve cover. It'll eventually get hard, and one way or another begin leaking oil into your spark plug wells. EGR valve and hose. Your EGR valve should move freely up and down with just a simple push of your finger. It's actually a pipe. That itself should be clear of carbon buildup. If it is full of carbon, remove it, clean it, reinstall it. Should be good to go. Your PCV valve is about the size of your thumb. It sits underneath your intake. Remove it, and shaking it, there should be no rattle whatsoever. The hoses on the non-turbo cars, if I recall correctly, there are 4 or 5. They should not be rock hard. They should be blemish-free. Most notably, they should also be seated correctly on their respective nipples. Check engine air filter. Certainly the easiest one of them all on this list. Engine air filter should be clean. Should be installed correctly. Check air intake piping. Another easy one. It might be as simple as a piece of air intake is not seated correctly or a clamp is loose. Idle relearn. Now this is something, the process at least, is Subaru specific. Check your O2 sensor ohm values. Exhaust manifold gaskets. These are not expensive, they're easy to replace. Check coils for cracks. This can be done relatively easily. Wait till it's dark, pop the hood on your car, have the car running, and spraying the coil and the leads with water. If you see arcing, that needs to be replaced immediately. Testing coil ohm values. This is pretty straightforward on a Subaru. Between the outputs, your ohm value should be 0.73 plus minus 10%. At the pin connector, which is the primary side, your ohm value should be 12,800 plus minus 15%. Check engine chassis ground straps, most notably between the cylinder head and the front chassis rail. They are garbage. Tinned copper, and the tinning eventually wears away. They pull apart, and it's just pathetic. As silly as this may seem, it really does, make a difference. Most Subaru cars have a coolant hose running through the intake to aid in fuel efficiency. You don't need to remove those hoses at all. Just remove the throttle body and take a brake clean type cleaner, blue shop towel, and go to town. This can be done with an OBD2 tool on your 2.5i Impreza, Legacy, Forester, whatever. Fuel pressure should be between 49 psi and 52 psi. Let's move into the stuff that costs money. Your first step before attempting anything other down here should be an Italian tune-up with 91 octane. Full can of seafoam at half a tank. It can work, it has worked for me, but results may vary. This requires a very specific type of cleaner. It cannot be done with brake clean, either chlorinated or not. Or carb cleaner. Do not use carb cleaner. These can be found typically at your local auto parts store for about $10 each. Subaru has 2 of them on the front. Hoses, you can use a normal transmission cooler type hose. The PCV valve itself, I would encourage a OE Subaru component. If I recall correctly, those retail for, oh god, it's been 3 years. I think $13. Those are about $25 to $30. Replacing spark plugs should be about $50. Not only is this not ungodly complicated, it only requires a single universal joint. No jacking of the engine is required, at least not in my experience. I would encourage a OE Subaru component. You can get away with using the NGK brand. Subaru uses Denso for a lot of their OE sensors and electrical needs. However, NTK and GK is plenty fine. They're about, per one, I think if I recall correctly, they're like $9, $10 a piece, something like that. I could be wrong. This is the one that tells your engine's computer that, hey, everything is hunky-dory. This is the expensive one because it has the heater element inside it, and thus must be made a little bit more robust than the downstream O2 sensor. Should be your last option, and only after you've gone through all of this, because these are quite expensive. So if you can fix the issue with something that's less expensive than a nuclear option that may or may not solve it. However, if you've done this entire list and still come up with a P0420, replacing the catalytic converter is your next option. I've used aftermarket catalytic converters. They're okay. You get what you pay for.